you had given a little bit of an update on Joey Sly, but I am curious if you heard anything more on Wes and JD, but if you can start with the Sly stuff.
Again, it was confirmed, that he did pull his hamstring. We'll see how long he's out. In the meantime, we are, looking at our options as far as kickers that are available.
And Wes, JD?
We're waiting for tests to come back on those guys. And again, once I'm done, I will go downstairs.
And then looking, because there's obviously a lot of talk about comparing this group to last year. How is this team different than last year? And are there some things they do better, more consistent? Are they deeper?
This is a hard comparison just because of where we are. I think we have better players in position, and part of the reason they're better is because they're a year older. Part of the reason they're better is because they are better players. I mean, I like what we did with the offensive line, going out there and signing Charles Leno and Eric Flowers and drafting Sam Cosmi at the same time. What we've gotten from Cornelius Lucas and Wes Schweitzer has been tremendous. What we've got from the young guys when they've played has been solid. So I think that group's better. You look at what the playmakers are doing with the wide receiving group, how the tight ends are developing, coming along, what we're getting from the running backs. Yesterday, Antonio rushed for over 100 yards. We had a big day. JD was very productive. And then the development of the quarterback has been another thing that's been great to see. One thing you're seeing on the defensive side, you're seeing more communication, which has been solid as of late. And I think a big part of it is obviously, and we've talked about it, is that these guys have gotten a better feel for one another. It's a different group than the group that finished up last year for us. We've got two young linebackers that are playing the bulk, and they're both learning. That's a huge plus for us, I believe. We've gotten some stuff out of Landon. He's been healthy all year, and he said he's still fighting it, but he likes playing the position, sort of, kind of. But we have a good guy at the Buffalo nickel position. And then really the way that the defensive line has been coming together, and I'll say the play of the interior positions, the tackles has been outstanding. I think it's a good group.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron, I'm just curious about how you guys have been using Kendall Fuller in the last few weeks, maybe a little more on the outside, and how that's led to we haven't seen Benjamin St. Juste on the field defensively the last couple of weeks.
Well, as far as Kendall's concerned, the move basically was necessitated, obviously, because of the injuries that Benjamin had. He's had a couple of injuries that have sidelined him a couple of times, and in the meantime, we've moved Kendall in there, and Kendall's done a nice job. But Danny Johnson has really stepped up and played very well. So it's hard to make a move when you have a guy doing, some really good things as far as Danny's concerned. And, Kendall has really kind of settled in at the outside position right now. So we're just going to kind of ride this for a while, see how it goes. But Benjamin is still a young man that's in our plans. I mean, we believe he's got a bright future, and it's just a matter of opportunities coming up again, because it'll happen. It's just the way football is. Something's going to happen. So we'll see how that goes. But right now, it's just been very pleased with what we've gotten from the guys that are on the field right now.
And to stay with the rookie class, you guys put Sam Cosmi on IR before the game. He had the ankle injury previously, then a hip injury. Kind of what's his situation? Obviously, beyond being on IR, but like what kind of led you to decide to do that? And how do you kind of think this is going to what does this mean for his development?
Well, we did that out of necessity, more so than anything else. He was going to miss at minimum, we believe, 3 weeks. And so we had to get Logan active again. So we used his spot. Obviously, we have other options when it's time to bring Sam back. I mean, the only thing it means is that Sam's going to miss three weeks minimum. It's unfortunate because he's a young guy that's developing, and we believe he's a big part of our future going forward.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, what has allowed you guys to really commit more to the run game over these over these last few weeks and really open up that side of the offense?
Well, I think, again, going back and looking at what we did a couple of weeks before we went on to the bye, and then the stuff we looked at during the bye, and just felt that there were some things that we could do, and we felt we could do well. One of them was running the ball. We felt the running with the ball would help our play action game, which it has even more so. So it really makes for an effective 1-2 punch as far as the offense is concerned. I think also Antonio's growth and development has really started to come through. I think Coach Jordan, Coach King are doing an excellent job with the young man and with that group for a whole. I mean, I like what Jared Patterson's doing. He just hasn't got a lot of opportunities. And as I said earlier, J.D. McKissick is just it's a big part of what we do. And he's a young man that, is showing that when he gets a chance to touch the ball, he can make something happen.
And as far as Landon, making that move for him, how has that opened up the defense as a whole? What has that allowed you guys to do more of, less of, to kind of get the right people in the right positions?
Well, really what we've done is we've put our playmakers on the field by doing that. Having Landon and Cam Curl and Bobby out there, the three of those guys are guys that are around the football, that have opportunities to make plays, and it puts them all on the field at the same time. With Landon, it gives us an opportunity to take advantage of a skill set that I really appreciate. It's something that, again, I've talked about. We did in Carolina. We called it the Buffalo nickel position. Shaq Thompson played that for us very, very well. And when you watch Landon, you watch his productivity over those last few weeks and what he's done and how he's impacting games. That's pretty special. So, we're going to continue with it. I know he fights it, but I think he fights it loving the fact that he's doing what he's doing.
Hey, Ron, for the three of them having those, do they have more of a defined role now, or
Yes.
do they kind of understand more? And how do you see that affect kind of that rotation? Or, what does that do for the three of them?
Well, what it does, Matt, and it's a good question because the roles are defined. We know Cam is a depth safety. We know Bobby's a good center fielder and communicator with those guys out there. And we know Landon's an aggressive at the point of attack player. And so we can use all three of their skill sets. And, the one that's kind of a little bit of capable of doing both really well, I think, is Cam, where I think, Landon is at the point to me where he's a guy that locks in and plays underneath, plays fast underneath. He makes the plays. You don't see a lot of run after catch in front of him. He's a guy that anticipates well. So I like what he's doing for us. He's done a great job, and he deserves a lot of credit.
And this isn't the first time you've had to look for a kicker this season, but now having gone through the motions a couple of times, what are the things you're looking for when you're trying guys out and bring someone into?
Well, the biggest thing we want to make sure is obviously we get the same type of kicker, a guy that's going to get the ball elevated quickly, and a guy that can make kicks, from about the 52-yard line, 52-yarders and in. I mean, that's pretty much what you hope to have, and that's what we're looking for. We feel there's some options. We're investigating, and hopefully by the end of the day, we'll have something done.
Go ahead, Phillips. I don't think JP's on.
All right, I'll ask both my questions. I was curious about the origins of the David and Goliath theme that you've been using the past couple of weeks, and then the second part of that would be, now that you've won 3 in a row, how do you continue to cultivate that underdog mentality when we're doing things like asking you about the playoffs?
Mostly because of the perception out there, and we'll continue that. I think the thing that we all have to look at is, as far as the David and Goliath, is really, it's a little bit broader than just that. One of the things that we talked about when I first introduced it, and it came, and honestly, I've been kind of saving it for the next time we faced Tampa. And I knew it would, because pretty much nobody gave us a chance. And so I thought it was the perfect opportunity to bring it out. And the players bought into it. They see it. They recognize it. One of the things that I told them, if you remember anything from this, It's that basically for every question, there's an answer. For every problem, there is a solution. For every Goliath, there's a David. And for every giant, there's a stone. And we've stuck to that. And it's a little bit of a mantra, but that's okay. You know, as long as they get it and understand it, it's been a very viable thing for us. And the players have handled it very well. It's kind of cool because the hype video that we show them every week, there is a connection to it. And then the post-game celebration has been a little bit like that as well. And it's something that, you know, that we have to continue to cultivate. And I'm going to use going forward because I think it's something that these guys resonate very well with.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Ron, as the league has become maybe more of a passing league, I wonder, do you still feel that relying on the running game is a sustainable, reliable way to win?
Yes, I do. You know, it's interesting because if you go back and you look at the statistics, who wins the Super Bowl and how do they win it, it all points to the yards rushing. You know, sure, you may set it up by throwing the ball, but at the end of the day, you grind it out. And I still think that holds true. If you look at the statistics, the numbers don't lie as far as that's concerned. There is a physicality, a mentality to it. If you can throw the ball well and yet at the same time still be able to keep that run game going, I think if you come up against a team that all they do is rely on the throw, you know, the passing game, you have a chance, I think, to win and win big. And the reason being so is you can grind it out. You know, we've been very fortunate the last few times we've controlled the time of possession, and by doing so, we've kept some very dynamic quarterbacks off the field, thank goodness. And by doing that, it gives us a chance and an opportunity to win. And I think it's something that, you know, it goes back to all the way to my time, you know, when I was with Andy, when I was with Coach Reed, you know, for everything everybody talked about, we threw. We still had a very dynamic running game, you know, and then go to Chicago with Coach Smith, and we did the same thing. That Super Bowl year, we ran the ball well. I go to San Diego and I'm with Norv, and one of the things that Coach Turner used to always talk about was, you know, some of Phillip Rivers' best passing games. He only threw for 200 yards, but they were very important yards. They were yards that were, you know, that offset the running game when we rushed for over 200 yards. You know, we had LaDainian Tomlinson back then, and, you know, it was a great 1-2 punch. Well, we're starting to see a little bit of that. So I can see us continue to stick with it and work on it, you know, but it's all predicated really on what Scott and the offensive coaches see as to how we should attack our opponents.
And so I wonder, you know, other than maybe the development of the running backs, which you talked about earlier, what do you think has been the key to not only establishing it, but making it so effective?
Well, I mean, you look at how well the offensive line has played together. I know it's a unit that's kind of been bumped up a little bit, bruised up a little bit, but they come to work every day and they work hard. You look at what they do as far as practice and watch the way they practice. You know, you can just tell. And it's one of the things I talked about yesterday was how these guys have come and they come to work every day. And the only way to continue to develop is to practice the right way.
Thank you.
Ron, Heineke mentioned post-game that there's been 2 special teams penalties that have been very important to this team this year in terms of winning 2 games. And I just wonder how you live on that knife's edge as a coach all the time, because if those penalties go the other way, you might be 3-8 this morning, and the conversation is way different than it is now.
Yep, and thank goodness it did go the other way. I think the biggest thing more than anything else is that's the fortunes of football. You know, because when we were in our losing streak, we didn't get any breaks. You know what I'm saying? The ball didn't bounce our way. We dropped interceptions. We missed fumble recoveries. We fumbled the ball. We threw interceptions. I mean, games like Green Bay stick out in my mind. Games like New Orleans stick out in my mind. Games that we had opportunities, but the ball didn't go our way, or the call didn't go our way. The referee didn't see it the way we saw it, you know?
Yeah.
So looking at it that way, you know, it's one of those things that when you get the ball bouncing your way, the calls go your way. shoot, I'm not going to apologize for it.
Right.
Thank goodness, to be honest. And I think that's, David, I think that's one of the fortunes of the game. I mean, because again, like you said, if they'd gone the other way, we're looking at a 3 and whatever record.
And I mean, I know every win's a good win, but you seemed especially animated last night. And I just wonder if there was anything in particular going on.
I love our resilience. I really do. And I got a lot of respect for the way our guys have handled it, because there's been a lot of adversity. There's been a lot of adversity circling us since I got here. And a lot of it, we have nothing to do with it. And that's the hard part. We're just kind of caught up in the middle of it. And to be honest with you, I was really excited for the fans that were there. And I'd love to see if we can continue to win and get on a roll and get the other folks that are Washington football team fans to come out. Because I know what it feels like to be in that stadium. I know what it feels like to be at RFK back in the day and have 70,000 or 80,000 people there screaming and hollering and getting all whooped up. That to me is what the ultimate goal here is. It's because if we can get that kind of support, man, I mean, it was really cool last night. And honestly, that last quarter, with that last drive, the things that went on, that felt like a packed house because of the energy. And that's what got me fired up. I mean, the energy was there. And, I think that's something that, this team seems to thrive off of too. Our players really do. I mean, I can feel it, with the things that we're trying to do. And I was asked earlier about the David and Goliath theme. I mean, that's something that these guys resonate with. Well, I can tell you they resonate and connect to when we have a lot of energy in the stands. So hopefully we can continue to do that. And hopefully we can continue to get the fans coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Resilience is something this team seemed to have last year too. And I'm wondering, you can't really scout it. You can scout a lot of things. So how are you finding guys who are able to handle this adversity? What do you look for when you draft guys or sign guys? And how do you assemble a roster that is resilient like this one?
Well, I disagree with you. I think you can scout it. And by that, I mean, you look at guys that have had to endure certain things and cope with certain things and deal with certain things, everything from their background, the way they grew up, to the injuries they've had, to the teams they've played on. Not everybody plays at an Alabama. And so you look at guys like, and Cam Curl's a great example. Here's a guy that played on some teams that weren't very good, that had to struggle, and yet he comes out and you watch him on tape and you see the way he plays and you say, God, this is a guy that, that can cope with things, and you say, man, that's pretty cool. You find out about DeAndre Carter's situation and having lost his brother, and yet you see how resilient he is and how tough he is. And, that's the kind of guy that fits your culture and you want to have him as part of your football team. You look at the young man that got a chance to play yesterday, Shaka Tony, who's had some tough times, coming up. So there you can see that. And I think, Peter, that's one of the things that I think is a huge plus. That if you pay attention to it when you do scout these guys and you do listen to them and you get a chance to, one of the best tools we had last year was we got an opportunity to do Zoom calls with these players. And a lot of these guys that we ended up drafting, a lot of these guys, that we got to know, I got to do personal Zooms with them. And so, I got a chance to ask them the questions I wanted to hear answered. And I think that really helped me, as we were going forward with these guys. But we're fortunate, we do have a good group. I think these guys are starting to understand, what we're looking for, what we need. And, and I really do appreciate who they're becoming.
Another intangible that I know matters to you is maturity, and it might have been lacking early on. Have you seen an improvement in that department since the bye? And if so, in what areas?
I think that the key to it all, more than anything else, is we're getting to the point where the things that they're supposed to do are becoming the things they want to do. They've been practicing the way that you need to practice. They've been, playing the way you need to play, and they're doing it because they want to do it. And when that starts to happen, I think now you can sit there and say, wow, we're starting to see the maturity. We're starting to see them understand that you do things because they're the right thing to do, not because it's easy or not because it's hard, but just because it's right. And that is important for us, because we got a good young group, and the more we learn and develop, the better we can be.
Ree,
Okay. Ron, I'm just curious. You've obviously been on championship teams, and how important is it to have different types of wins? Obviously, against Tampa Bay, that's a former Super Bowl champion. Carolina, that was an emotionally charged game. I think we can all say that. And then obviously, this was a primetime game on, when the stakes are very high and you guys control your own destiny to rise to that occasion. Why is it important, or how important is it for teams who are successful to have different styles of wins?
Because I think, again, whatever the situation is or however it arises, if you haven't gone through it or you haven't been successful in it, you're going to have to learn to do that. And so to your question, like Tampa Bay, that was a foundational win. As you said, it's against a specific type of team. Last year when we beat Pittsburgh, we beat the last undefeated team. So with those types of wins, you can build off of those things. Emotional games, you've got to be able to handle and cope and deal with, because your emotions get involved. And sometimes, you can make mistakes emotionally, but being able to handle it and kind of refocus and bring everything back down and play well, that's huge. To play on a prime time and be able to handle and cope with the pressure and the stress of being on the national stage, that's a good thing, because again, going forward, if we can put ourselves in position, if we can get to the stretch and we've got 5 divisional games, they're going to be important games to play because of that. And who knows, if things work out, one of those 5 games may be a game that could get flexed to a national game. So who knows? And we'll see what happens.
One of the things that you said when you first came to Washington was that you wanted a coaching staff full of teachers. That was very important to you, that your coaches understand how to talk to the players. One of the things that Logan Thomas said when he signed his extension is that right now it's about making the guys behind me 5% better. And obviously we kind of see that when he went down, or when Ricky Seals-Jones went down. But I'm curious, how have you seen some of the veteran players or some of the people that have been injured, how have you seen them teach the people that are behind them to sort of help you all, when things have come up?
What's been really cool about watching the way the veteran guys have connected, and have helped to teach, whether they're players or coaches, is the communication aspect of getting together with these guys and expressing just how important it is. I think part of it is too, because they connect with their teammates, they like their teammates, and you use a great example. Logan has been tremendous, and you watch him with Ricky, and you watch him with John, and you watch him with Samus, and he gets certain points across to them, little detail things. And I know you guys have watched Coach Haynard coach. I know you guys have watched Coach Matsko, and you've seen how tough those guys are. And you listen to those veteran guys tell the young guys, hey, if he's not yelling at you, that's when you should be nervous. When he's yelling at you, it's because he likes you. He wants you to develop and grow. Those are things that veteran guys can tell young guys. What's kind of neat too is early on, you saw a lot of these older guys come out and watch these younger guys and give them advice. We do a little something extra after practice with our young offensive and defensive linemen. What was happening is the older offensive linemen, the older defensive linemen are staying after, and after these guys do a drill, they sit there and explain them, hey, look at this, you see this, do that. I mean, those are the things that are helping this team develop and grow, is that the veteran guys are putting their arms around the young guys, and they're trying to get them to understand and prepare them for moments like we've had, whether, next man up. I mean, look at what Shaka Tony did yesterday with a quarterback hit, a quarterback sack, a tackle for loss, and just, I think back to when watching Jonathan Allen say something to him, and just, man, it means something to the kid to have a veteran guy say something and he takes it to heart. That to me is impressive. You watch Brandon Scherf and how he had put his arm around Cosby and tried to get, help Sam out as Sam started to play. So it's important. Kendall Fuller working with those young DBs. I mean, it goes on and on. And honestly, one of the positions we're missing it right now because of the injury to John Bostic is linebacker. Early on, John was setting a great example for those young guys. And now, those guys are kind of learning through trial and error. And instead of having the voice of experience, in their ear saying, hey, think about this, do this. it's important though that our guys do that to help each other.
If I may quickly follow
a couple more here.
If I may quickly follow up on that, kind of off Pete's question, how do you identify a player who can be a good teacher, and how can you convey to them like, hey, there may be situations where somebody will go down, and therefore you not being selfish, you teaching them these things, this could possibly help, in a situation where we need to have a late playoff push. How do you identify it, and how can you convey that?
Team captains. One of the most impressive ones I've come across is Terry McLaurin. Just knowing the fact that, he was the first underclassman to be a captain at Ohio State. I mean, that tells you first and foremost that this is the kind of guy you want out in front of your guys. Guy that's been a very quiet leader and doesn't get enough credit, and just through observation, is Landon Collins. And it's one of those things. There's a guy that played at Alabama, a big program like that. So you do look for guys that have had that mantle when they were in college. One thing that when you interview their coaches, their position coaches, you listen for them, they say, wow, he's like a coach on the field. Guys that give you some really good insight into players are like strength coaches. Those guys, they love to talk because for the most part, they're kind of, pushed to the side. But you get a guy like that, you sit down and you listen to them explain as to who these guys are, what their observations are. You're trying to hear people say those types of things about players that, as, oh yeah, he could get up on the board and explain the entire defense, or he can tell you what every guy does offensively. Those are the kind of things that you're listening for.
Why not?
Ryan, you mentioned the defensive communication, but are there things tactically that these guys on defense are doing, or is it just a matter of kind of the chemistry that they've built up together and having a more familiarity with Jack's system and just each other?
I think it's a combination. I think what's happened is, first of all, I think guys are now understanding, how things fit in this defense. Something I've mentioned it last night in the post-game press conference was something that happened in the game was a little bit of a miscommunication. It was almost an anticipation, and really we missed the opportunity. And it was the big catch to lock it early in the first quarter. We were anticipating, the crossers, which we got, and we were expecting a certain technique to be played. We didn't play it. And because of it, they caught the ball on it. Come to the sidelines, they talked about it, they got it straightened out, and then they went out and made some plays. Those are the tactical things that we have to be really good at, and at the same time be able to communicate as well. If you watch it, the way it handled, 2/3 of it was done exactly the way you needed to. The 1/3 is what we missed. And again, that went back to pure communication. But the tactical aspect, you can see the guys getting it and understanding it. As long as we follow through with the communications, we're okay.
Last one, we got to cut this by 2:30.
Ron, I got a fun one for you here. I don't know if you saw the video, but everybody's talking about it. The first touchdown Seattle scored, Gerald Everett tried to do a Lambeau leap into the stands, and the Washington fan shoved him back. So I was curious what you saw of his technique and if he's going to get a one-day contract.
Well, it would be a hit against the salary cap, so there won't be a contract coming. What I did like was his hand placement, nice and tight on the inside, and just a little shove, keep him, protecting his part of the stadium. Appreciate that from our fans. Just got to be careful so nobody gets hurt.
All right, Ron, that's all from me. So
all right,
I'm good.
Thank you.
Guys. Thanks, Coach.
Out. Real quick, you guys signed Brian Johnson. What do you know about him, or for your kicker, or anything you can?
He's a guy that we plucked off of a practice squad, I believe. It was something we've been working on since last night, and we'll go from there. But I do know we talked about it. Basically at halftime, I basically got the word out to our personnel department that we need to start looking and coming up with some kickers' names. And then after the game, we got together. I talked with Marty, Eric Stokes, and Chris Polian, and then we went to Nate, talked to Nate about it. Nate's very familiar with him, and that's a guy that we believe we could bring in and have him be part of what we're trying to do while Joey heals up, and we'll see how it goes.